Well, hello, and it is time to breathe again on this latest Breath of Fresh Air Shorty. It's the first of the year. I know I'm about a month and a half late with putting out a shorty, but I'm glad to be with you guys on this forum. I am Charles, and I am the host for today's edition of the Breath of Fresh Air Shorties. So this one might run a little bit long, but I'll try to knock out as much material as I can with the two topics that I have in store for today. Now, let's start here. So I was watching something over the weekend. Well, okay, take that back. Uh, I guess I was looking through some things on the computer over the weekend in terms of the Pro Bowl in the NFL and then the NHL All Star game as well. And I couldn't help but notice that both of these events were taking place in Las Vegas. It's crazy how many sporting events are taking place in Las Vegas now, especially when leagues like the NFL, we're basically looking at Las Vegas as kind of a taboo spot. Can't touch Las Vegas. Too much gambling going on, and we're against all that. But wow, has time changed? Look how much stuff is going on in Las Vegas. For the NFL alone, you have, of course, the Las Vegas Raiders. They moved over there from Oakland, and now they are hosting the Pro Bowl. They have the NFL draft that's going to be there in a couple of months, and they will be hosting a Super Bowl in a couple of years. Of course, this one is in SoFi Stadium in the LA area. Next year, I think it's in Glendale, Arizona, the home of the Arizona Cardinals, State Farm Stadium. And then they'll be at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas for the next Super Bowl come 2024. So it is just wild how much sports has embraced being in Las Vegas. Of course, we all know it is about the money, and look at how gambling has taken off when it comes to looking at any of these shows. You go to whatever network, to name your network, ESPN, CBS Sports, Fox Sports, name your network. You just see nothing but gambling shows. Even if you go on their streaming platforms, you just see nothing but gambling shows. Now everything's about prop bets, over unders, who's the favorite, who's the underdog. It is crazy just how much the city of Las Vegas and the gambling mentality has just taken over in sports. And of course, there's a whole bunch of money into it. Fantasy football leagues, DraftKings, FanDuel, uh, it's everywhere. Gambling is everywhere. Everywhere you turn, it seems like there's some sort of a betting line. Talking about these games, how much the if you bet like $100, how much you can win, and of course with the favorites, it's you got to bet this much to win $100. I mean, it's crazy, crazy how much gambling has taken over, and also how much sports and events is just taking place in the city of Las Vegas. I mean, just think in the last 4 years, now Las Vegas is home to two pro teams. Of course, you got the Raiders, and they came over in 2020, and then you have the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL that started playing in 2017, and now all the events, like the majority of the UFC events, take place in Las Vegas's T-Mobile Arena. And then, of course, you still have your boxing events that take place there on top of all the gambling and stuff that's going on. Boy, Vegas is booming, booming big. And just think, not too long ago, these leagues wanted nothing to do with Vegas. Now it's just, oh, Vegas, 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 baby, all day long. And look, I get it. I mean, I've been to Vegas a good amount of times throughout my military career. Vegas is a happening town, but boy, oh boy, just be careful. You don't want to lose that money over one night of gambling and all the stuff that's going on. A lot of temptation there in Vegas. So I get it. I understand now why all of a sudden these leagues want to go there because of all the money that's there. So whatever. I just thought that was just kind of funny how not too long ago Vegas was just kind of looked at as a taboo place, and the sports leagues were trying their best not to deal with it because of the gambling aspect, but now they've done nothing but just go all in on it. It's crazy. Now, let's get to the big news of the day, which is the NBA trade deadline. So the deadline is coming up in, I mean, I guess it's around what, 135, 140. So it will happen at 2 o'clock Central. So at about 20, 25 minutes. The big trade happened between the Brooklyn Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers. And it involves James Harden, who, of course, will be going from the Nets to the 76ers in exchange for Ben Simmons and a few other players. I think Andre Drummond was on there too. Now, here's the thing, I'm going to stay with particularly James Harden and Ben Simmons. Not because they're the big uh, players involved in this deal, but because this has been something that I guess has been brewing for the last year. Now, if y'all recall, I said to Patrick on a webcast a year ago when James Harden was trying to eat and just dog his way out of the Houston Rockets situation down there in Houston, that if he was going to get traded, it should have been with the Philadelphia 76ers. And of course, Ben Simmons, whose stock to me was way higher than it is now, uh, he had to be included in that deal. The reason why I was saying that is because, one, it was going to be the best for both clubs. In Philadelphia, if you were to get James Harden, you were going to get a bona fide scorer, an outside scorer that could complement the abilities Joel Embiid is having. We know, for those of us who have been following the NBA a little bit, I know it's been NFL hot and heavy, college football hot and heavy, but for those who have been following the NBA, y'all know Joel Embiid right now is a favorite to win the MVP. So getting a guy like James Harden that would complement the games if everything goes right. And we know James Harden's history of fading away in the playoffs and not being a clutch player, but he can do a lot to get you there. Now, more on the recent version of James Harden in a minute. But back then, a year or so ago, I was saying that would be the team that would just make the most sense to me. Houston would have been getting a young Ben Simmons who has a whole bunch of ability, a whole bunch of talent, and that could have been the guy they started building their team around as they go into a serious rebuild. Now, be as it may, of course, you had Daryl Morey, who was the general manager of the Rockets once upon a time, and it was his first year coming in, and Doc Rivers was in his first year coming in as the head coach. So I could understand where they would say we want to keep Ben Simmons because you don't want to be the team that has a 24 or 25-year old with all this talent and you traded him away. You don't want to be known as that team. You want to be able to see all those fruits from the labor come to fruition. You want to see the guy blossom into what you feel he could be if he's able to max out his full potential. But if they were going to do that trade, I would have did that. If I was Philly and I'm trying to win now, which they will have you believe they are trying to win now, then Philly would have been the team to get traded for. Um, of course, the trade didn't happen and Harden ended up going to the Brooklyn Nets. And now you have these events for today. And now these two dudes essentially again traded for each other. And Daryl Morey, I guess maybe this is what he was waiting for, trying to add. I mean, I guess he was trying to ask for way, way, way too much for Ben Simmons for a guy who can't shoot, doesn't want the ball in the clutch. Yeah, whatever. We'll get to more of that in a minute. But the trade has happened now, and this is the outlook. I honestly don't know how I feel about this trade. I don't. I guess there's potential for both teams to start to take off from this trade, but we really don't know what versions of these players we're going to get. Starting with the 76ers, on paper, having James Harden join Joel Embiid, and you got to keep Tobias Harris and Seth Curry and some of those other role players as well, it looks like the Philadelphia 76ers can become a favorite in the Eastern Conference. Now, for my money, I still like the Milwaukee Bucks. I still like the Miami Heat a little bit more than I like Philly, but they're definitely a threat. Now, if you're getting the James Harden, who was an MVP in the league, is capable of leading the league in assists, We don't know if we're getting that guy. James Harden looks like he's breaking down. He has hamstring issues. He definitely had them last year with the Nets. And he's been off and on injured this year, too. So we don't know if we're going to get this James Harden that can go out there and get it like he once was able to do. Now, who knows? Maybe he was just tired of the situation in Brooklyn and then he just turned into an aloof like he did in Houston. We don't know. And maybe he's feeling like he's got a resurrection going on in Philadelphia. We will find out and see. But if everything happens the way it could happen, the way it looks on paper, Philly is a bona fide threat in the Eastern Conference. Again, I'll say again, I still like Milwaukee and Miami over them. Chicago, I think, is still going to be a threat, and watch out for the Atlanta Hawks too. But Philly can be a threat. As for the Nets, oh my goodness, what a spectacular crash and burn to this supposed big three. Remember those articles that were coming out when Harden did get traded to the Brooklyn Nets? And of course, he was going to join Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving there to form this ridiculous big three that was supposed to be a dynasty. And they were being called a dynasty before they even got close to winning a championship. What happened to that? Well, besides it crashing and burning. And also, when I want to see a percentage of the games Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden actually played together. Can't be any more than 25 or 30% of the games, right? At least one of those dudes missed a game. They didn't play together. So, what a spectacular disaster that ended up being for the Nets. You went all in for these guys and you didn't come close to winning a championship because they weren't healthy. And so we really didn't get to see what they were going to do. Now, y'all know I had always thought they weren't going to win a title anyway. They can't play no defense. And they didn't have any depth. They traded all their depth away. So I didn't see them winning a title anyway. But I would have at least liked to see what they could have done if those three were able to stay healthy. But it didn't happen consistently. And now you have Ben Simmons in the fold. Kyrie Irving's still there. I think he's a team chemistry killer personally. But I mean, whatever. He's a great offensive player. That's all I'll give him because he doesn't do much else well. Kevin Durant, he's been out with a knee injury, a sprained MCL, and we'll see when he returns. I guess he's supposed to return after the All Star break. I don't see too much still coming out of the Nets. Now you do get a better defender in Ben Simmons, but we don't know what Ben Simmons we're gonna get. He hasn't been playing, so I guess he got to work his way back into shape. To my knowledge, he still can't shoot. He still doesn't want the ball in the clutch. So I don't really know how much they're improving, except for on the defensive end. And if you have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant there, I mean Kyrie Irving, he's still in a part-time status because he can't play home games. Um, we'll see, but I mean I don't really see Brooklyn still being a threat either, um, unless those guys are able to stay healthy. So there's a lot of questions happening with this trade, and I guess we'll get those answers soon. But it just doesn't. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know if there's a winner or a loser yet in this trade. We don't know how these players are going to be. Like I said, James Harden has been injured a lot lately. Ben Simmons hasn't played, and he still doesn't want to shoot, still doesn't want the ball in the clutch. So we'll see if any of that changes. But if both things happen the way they could happen, they could be threats. They could definitely be threats in the East. So look, I'm on record as saying even on Tuesday, I didn't even think the trade was going to happen. So right there, I'm wrong. And I guess looking at my NFL picks, I've been wrong a lot about these things anyway. So maybe I'm not the person you want to listen to right now. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with that trade. Well, that is what I'm breathing on for today. Y'all make sure y'all go and visit the Breath of Fresh Air YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button, and keep the likes coming on the Breath of Fresh Air Facebook page. Everybody take care, have a good rest of the week, and we will talk soon.